Good evening. You've just finished watching the final provincial election debate featuring the four main party leaders. It included a number of spicy moments with Doug Ford on the defensive at times and opposition leaders trying to push him on his record. All right, I guess we don't got that clip. Take a closer look at some of the key moments in the debate. Let's go to Emily Taylor. Emily, what stood out for you?
Well, Matt, affordability, healthcare, and housing took center stage at this debate, with fewer references to Donald Trump's tariffs than we had expected. Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie was on the offensive tonight, calling out her opponents and taking on incumbent Premier Doug Ford directly several times. During the debate period about healthcare, Crombie went after Ford's record after 7 years in office.
By your own admission, Doug, you put $1.8 billion into your plan for health care. You put more into the spa at Ontario Place at $2.1 billion. Yeah, you might build hospitals, but you're not recruiting doctors, you're not recruiting nurses, and you're not giving them the operating costs. I'd like you to look into the camera, and I'd like you to tell the people at home who lost loved ones while they were on the wait list what you did over the past 7 years to fix our health care system, because it's broken. We're in crisis. And you're bragging about what you've done. It's been an abysmal failure.
Doug Ford?
Well, Bonnie, what I will tell you, there's a reason why Dr. Jane Philpott, a liberal minister, comes to our team. It's very simple because she sees the vision. She sees that we're building healthcare. She sees that, again, backlog surgeries. You know something? We have less backlog surgeries per capita than anyone in the entire country.
Now, all of the parties are promising to better hire and retain doctors and nurses. This was also something discussed at length during Friday's debate for Northern Issues. NDP leader Mart Stiles also referenced Hamilton directly, saying the average wait time in an emergency room in this city is 22 hours. Now, there's plenty of back and forth like that happened throughout the debate. But for now, we'll go over to you, Matt.
All right, Emily, we'll be back with you for more clips. But for more, let's bring in our panel of politicos. Sabrina Nanji is a Queen's Park correspondent and the founder of the QP Observer. Randy Rath is CHCH's Queen's Park producer. And Keith Leslie is a former Queen's Park correspondent and a CHCH News political analyst. Thank you all for being here tonight. Sabrina, let's start with you. First reactions to what we just watched.
Yeah, well, I'm actually here at CBC for the fireworks, and I think there were some moments, but just off the top, I think Doug Ford, tried to stick to his talking points. He tried to stick to this theme of tariffs, but obviously, his rivals weren't really letting that happen. They were hammering him on healthcare, on education, and we sort of got to talk a little bit more about policy rather than U.S. relations. I don't know if it's really changed many hearts and minds today, but at the same time, I think a lot of people were watching and tuning in. We're just 10 days out from the election. Doug Ford and the Conservatives are the party to beat. They've been the front runner through the campaign. I think we saw, maybe some missed opportunities for Bonnie Crombie and Mart Stiles to really get under his skin, but they did try to undermine this whole rationale for going to the polls early, which Ford says it's tariffs, and I think we saw, Bonnie Crombie and Mart Stiles land some, significant blows to Ford and his record, especially on healthcare and housing. Whether or not that's going to change people's hearts and minds, I guess, time will tell.
Randy, what did you think stood out in this debate?
Well, I think what stood out to me was that Doug Ford didn't crumble. He did okay, and as Sabrina just said, they did make significant punches at him for healthcare and for the price of homes, but they didn't make him crumble. And when it's 3 against 1, I think Doug did pretty well just to hold his own.
Keith, what about you? Was there anything remarkable or unique that stood out for you tonight?
What surprised me more than anything was right off the bat how nervous Doug Ford seemed, especially when the very first question was the one he wanted more than anything else, which was who's the leader that can best handle the threat of Trump's tariffs? And he was the first one to answer it. So the fact that he wasn't teed up and ready to go on that, as I say, he looked really, really nervous in answering that one, and he fumbled over some of his statistics. But eventually, as the night wore on and he got his feet underneath him, he was able to get back to his comfort of his talking points. And that's where he stayed mostly, no matter what was thrown at him. Doug Ford stayed to his talking points, even though he took a lot of hits on housing, on homelessness, and especially on health care. You know, the hallway health care mess, the fact that 2.5 million Ontarians don't have a family doctor. He was vulnerable on those. He took a lot of hits on those, but he just kept coming back with the talking points about how many doctors he's recruited, how many nurses they've hired, how much more they're putting into healthcare. So he's stuck in his comfort zone. But for the most part, as Randy said, he held his own. He didn't lose his cool, and that was job one for Doug Ford tonight.
Okay, so Doug Ford held his own. Sabrina, Marit Stiles and Bonnie Crombie, you said, had some opportunities to get some shots in, but had some missed opportunities. In your estimation, who do you think won this debate?
I think the format was interesting. Like anytime, a candidate sort of attacked another candidate, that candidate, the subject of the attack, got 30 seconds. So I feel like a lot of the times it was an interesting dynamic that anytime, Bonnie Crombie or Marit Stiles would attack Doug Ford, he got 30 seconds to address it. And I do think there were some missed opportunities. I mean, we've been saying throughout that Doug Ford and the PCs have been the front runners and, the party to beat during this campaign. And I'm not sure if that's so much because people, necessarily love what Doug Ford and the Conservatives have been doing, rather than, the opposition, his opposition, Bonnie Crombie and Marit Stiles, having difficulty getting their message out there and getting it to stick and getting traction with people. I think, Bonnie Crombie and Marit Stiles, they had their work cut out for them tonight. Like they had to introduce themselves to voters, who may not be familiar with them. They needed to not only raise their profiles and hold Doug Ford's feet to the fire, but they need to present themselves as premier in waiting. And I think that, for Bonnie Crombie, she's really sticking to that healthcare message. She mentioned, her children and how they want to, they may not be able to find a home, something that a lot of Ontarians can relate with. Marit Stiles had similar stories, about her own daughters and coming to Ontario from the East Coast, it not being, the province that it once was under Doug Ford. Whether or not they were successful in that, I'm not sure. But certainly they were really, they were able to really, maybe shift the focus of this debate somewhat, which Doug Ford has been very successful at sucking up all the oxygen in the room and talking about tariffs, whereas today we sort of got to discuss a little bit more about his record and, healthcare, education. Things are more on the domestic side of things. But at the same time, there's a lot of holes in what Bonnie Crombie and Marit Stiles are talking about. They both don't have fully costed platforms yet. And I think, it was a significant blow for Marit Stiles too. She's got to fight Bonnie Crombie as well, differentiate herself from the Liberals too. And I thought it was, kind of one of the knockout moments when Bonnie Crombie said that, the Liberals, the NDP, think that money grows on trees. I thought that was sort of an interesting attack. It actually got a laugh from Doug Ford off camera too. So definitely, I think those two had some missed opportunities, but also some serious solid hits too when it comes to the policy side of things.
Randy, Keith, I want to give you guys a chance to answer that question as well, but let's put this conversation on pause for a second. Emily Taylor is going to join us in studio with more highlights from the debate. Emily.
Matt, we saw a number of highlights, including affordability. That was one of the big things that was talked about. We heard about grocery rebates from the NDP and also a lot of disagreements about Ford's checks, that is money going out to each Ontarian. One of the top moments, though, in that conversation was about government disability payments, and that was a question asked directly by Green Party leader Mike Schreiner to Doug Ford. Let's take a listen.
The three of us have all said we would double ODSP rates.
Yes.
People are living in legislated poverty. And I'm wondering if Mr. Ford thinks it's okay in a province as wealthy as Ontario that people would be forced to live in legislated poverty on $1,300 a month, when average market rent in this province is $1,600 a month and over $2,000 in Toronto. How can we sleep at night knowing that people with disabilities can't even afford to pay the bills?
Bonnie Crombie, I can see you want to get in. Doug Ford, did you want to respond to that?
Well, I'll respond quickly. Under ODSP, we've actually increased it based on the rate of inflation. It's gone up since 2022, 17%. That's what we've done. But you can't pay people on ODSP if you don't have an economy. And all you three believe in is simple. Just tax the people to death. Right. Tax companies to death. We saw what you did.
I know it's my opportunity to get in.
7 years ago.
No, I think it's my opportunity.
I walked into a bankrupt province because you lost 300,000 jobs. You tax businesses. You tax people. Hey.
Well, there was a lot less talk about tariffs than we had expected. Ford did bring the conversation back to the economy several times, mentioning as well that comment that Sabrina mentioned earlier, the NDP believes money grows on trees. That was from Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie. Now, CHCH News is currently still at the debate. Our team is there, and they're speaking with the candidates to get their reactions. But Ford has not spoken with reporters. He is reportedly not going to tonight. We'll go back to you, Matt.
All right, thanks very much, Emily. Now, before we get to dig in a little bit more on who the winner of this was, Randy, I want to ask you about that exchange we just looked at. Mike Schreiner going after Doug Ford on ODSP, the quote, living in legislative poverty, which we've heard many times in the past. Do you think Schreiner did a good job getting his point home? Did Ford do a good job of defending his government's position on that issue?
I think that Mike did absolutely a good job in getting his point across, and I think Doug Ford did a pitiful job of defending his position. It's basically indefensible. I mean, people that are on ODSP can't work because they're disabled, and to expect them to survive on essentially $1,300 a month it's sad. You know, this type of thing shouldn't happen, as Mike said, in a province as rich as Ontario.
And Keith, I want to ask you about that exchange, but in a different way. That certainly shows that it was Ford 3-on-1 of sorts that night. Bonnie Crombie in particularly took some strong and aggressive moments with him. Who do you think came off better in that exchange between Crombie and Ford over the course of the entire debate?
Well, I think overall, as we said, Ford held his own, but Bonnie Crombie had to introduce herself to Ontarians in a way that even Merritt Stiles hasn't had to do, because Merritt Stiles, while this was her first debate as a party leader, he's had a seat in the legislature, something Bonnie Crombie has not had. So Crombie had to be a little extra aggressive to get her points across tonight and to make sure she was heard. So anytime, and there were many times through the debate where that everyone's talking over top of each other, and Bonnie Crombie was almost always involved in that, rhubarb, when everybody just blah, blah, blah. So she was trying to be aggressive, and she made some good points there. I thought it was interesting that both Doug Ford and Merritt Stiles took most of their attacks, and now, Merritt obviously attacked Doug Ford the most, but she went after Bonnie Crombie a number of times, especially about the fact that, Bonnie Crombie takes donations from private healthcare providers, and, Ontario's going more and more into private healthcare thing. And Crombie, rather than trying to defend that, said, Stiles is just jealous of her fundraising abilities. So what we're seeing here, I think, more than anything, is the NDP and the Liberals really trying to, show Ontarians that they'd be the best to be second place here, because it appears Ford is unstoppable, even though he's vulnerable on a number of issues. We saw that throughout the evening, but he just comes back with the statistics about how much they're doing, how much they're trying to improve the situation. He admitted he made a mistake in the Greenbelt, all these sorts of things. He's just playing the everyday guy, the populist guy, and for the most part, it still seems to be working with taxpayers who don't dig as deep into a lot of these issues as many of us do.
Sabrina, this segment is almost over, but I want to get your thoughts real quick. What did you think about the exchanges between Merritt Stiles and Bonnie Crombie, the interplay between the NDP and the Liberals vying almost for that second spot?
Yeah, well, as my co-panelists have pointed out, this is Doug Ford's race to lose. And so, the race for second place becomes that much more interesting. And we do see the Liberals and the NDP sort of jockeying for official opposition. And I do think that it's pointed, right? Like Bonnie Crombie poking holes in the NDP's plan, Merritt Stiles, as Keith mentioned, calling out Bonnie Crombie's healthcare donors, which Crombie shrugged off. I think that it's crucial for these two parties. There are a lot of races in Toronto, especially, and the GTA that could see the NDP and the Liberals going head to head, and that's going to make or break these parties when it comes to official opposition or even getting recognized party status, which the Liberals did not have in 2022. You need 12 seats for that. And so I think that this is like the so-called progressive primary, right? Where they've not only got to attack Doug Ford, but they've also got to attack each other and differentiate themselves, because, there are a lot of different policy proposals from them. But of course, we have vote splitting in this province is a very real thing, and strategic voting. So I think for sure the NDP and the Liberal leaders are both trying to woo each other's voters at the same time.
All right, let's take one more pause in this conversation and head back to Emily Taylor, who has one more set of clips for us. Hey, Emily.
Good evening, Matt. Now, moderators asked about the recent spike in crime that we have seen across the province, specifically among youths. This is something Ford has been speaking about for months now, and as Premier did put quite a bit of money towards talking about bail reform as well. Now, here's what he said tonight.
As the Liberals were closing jails, we're building jails. As the Liberals and NDP were getting rid of our police, we're hiring more police. Actually, over 2,000 more police officers through our colleges, and we're paying for their education. Yes, I believe in making sure we hold people accountable. You know, I find it ironic that you, Bonnie, are saying about the police. You said on tape that you're scared of the police. And as for you, Merritt, your own members want to defund the police.
All right.
Like, who wants to defund the police except the NDP?
And that
Only
is...
your group.
Now, moderators had said they went out into the streets to ask people what they were considering most as their top election issue, and a number of people did answer crime and the spike in car thefts also that we've seen. For now, I'll go back to you, Matt.
All right, thanks very much, Emily. Time for a short break, but when we come back, we've asked our panel what their favorite moment of the night was. Stick around to hear what they say.
Am I dead? Because I'm feeling a little ghosty.
Is that me?
That's my life from now on. I'm talking to spirits, ghosts, whatever you are.
I don't know if I'm the same kind of doctor that I was before.
Well, are you better or are you worse?
Saving Hope, Tuesdays at 10 on CHCH.
Traveling again? We really missed you at the Buffalo Niagara International Airport. While you were gone, we upgraded with more space and a bigger and better baggage claim area, while keeping all the great amenities that have made us an ultra-convenient, award-winning airport. We have non-stop destinations all over the U.S., from major airlines to low-cost carriers that don't fly in Ontario, like JetBlue, Frontier, and Southwest. Average peak checkpoint wait time is still only 12 minutes. Save time and money. Visit buffaloairport.com today.
What do you feel when you look at it?
Everything.
What are you in the mood for?
Complete strangers living together. They see someone who is unstoppable.
Hey! It's all here.
Oh, you're not gonna cheer?
Set the mood.
What the hell are you doing to me?
It's on Prime.
You've worked for a comfortable retirement for years. Now you need to plan for retirement income. Learn ways to avoid common mistakes, like being too conservative or not setting retirement goals.
Get Fisher Investments Comfortable Retirement Kit and help make your retirement a success. 1-888-601-1192.
Have someone on your side to keep you on track. If your retirement portfolio is $500,000 or more, call us today.
Get your free Comfortable Retirement Kit. 1-888-601-1192.
You know how we did it? We invested. We invested with Dofasco and Algoma, putting electric arc furnaces in. That's like taking 2 million cars off the road. We're building the Ontario line. That's taking 28,000 cars off the road.
Okay, I'll have to jump in on you, Doug Ford and Bonnie Crombie.
You know, unfortunately, Doug, you don't get the plight of real people because you were raised privileged with a silver spoon in your mouth. You didn't have to work for anything. You got a company handed to you, Doug, so you don't understand how expensive things are today. I bet you couldn't tell me what the cost of eggs are. I am the first Liberal to stand up and say it's too expensive to have a consumer carbon tax. I was the first Liberal to say there will be no tax on consumers. There will be no carbon tax, Doug. I have said that repeatedly, but you just like your friend Donald Trump make things up.
All right, welcome back. That was just from the end of the debate, and I asked all our panelists here to suggest one of their favorite moments of the night to me, but I kind of like that, so I'm overriding all three of you and wanted to think first, what did you guys think of that little exchange right at the end? Randy, let's start with you.
That was a mighty fine clip. You know, Bonnie went right at him. She saw his weakness. She attacked it. You know, Doug Ford probably doesn't know how much it costs for a dozen eggs. You know, he really did. He inherited a company from his dad, and you know, he didn't have the tough upbringing that Bonnie continues to talk about, with her dad having substance abuse problems, living in a rooming house with her mom. You know, she has a real story behind her that is more relatable to most Ontarians, I would think, than Doug Ford's upbringing.
Sabrina, I want to ask you next, do you think that got under Doug Ford's skin? I'm not drawing a connection here, but I'm going to point out we're hearing that Doug Ford actually skipped scrums not long after that clip happened and left, didn't take any questions. What are your thoughts on that exchange between Ford and Crombie?
Yeah, you're right about Doug Ford skipping out on scrums again for the second time with reporters. But yeah, I think that definitely was one of those moments. We know that, you know, for back when she was Mississauga mayor, Bonnie Crombie had this knack for being able to get under Doug Ford's skin, and I think she really did try to do it, especially with that moment. I thought it was her way of illustrating, you know, her criticism of Doug Ford throughout, that he's this out of touch person who's only in it for his insiders and buddies. He's not in it for the little guy, despite, you know, these populist promises and way that he presents himself. But I think that, you know, she could have gone for the jugular a little more. There were a lot of missteps that Ford has made during this campaign, a lot of hot mic moments that, you know, the leaders didn't really dig in on. And I think that, you know, as my colleagues have pointed out, Ford did a pretty decent job of not getting riled up or going negative, which is something that we actually saw him do a little bit more on Friday's debate that in North Bay, the Northern themed debate. So I think that definitely this weekend of debate prep with Ford's team was all about sticking to his talking points. And so I think that, you know, he did hold his own, even though Bonnie Crombie really did try her best to get in her digs.
Keith, we've only got about 15 seconds. Final word to you, my friend.
That was a great shot from Bonnie Crombie at the end, and especially, you know, intentionally trying to get under Doug Ford's skin. We know it can be done, and she's probably the one to do it at this point. He's clearly very worried about the Liberals, you know, making gains against the PCs in this election, so he's attacking her, but she came back with a strong shot there, and a very impressive one, really, a good clip.
All right, we have time for one more break, but stick around afterwards. We're going to have the panelists for their final thoughts as we go into the final stretch of this election. Stay with us.
The cold case unit leaves no victim forgotten.
Never found her killer.
Never say never.
Cold Case, Tuesdays at 8 on CHCH.
Everybody knows what you got. Tap into slots with over 1,000 games and new ones added daily. Tap into slots. Tap into Botano. Botano. The game starts now.
Imagine you could get help for your stiff, achy joints without products that just hide the symptoms. Instaflex Advanced. It relieves joint pain and stiffness caused by osteoarthritis with key ingredients backed by 5 clinical studies. You'll have better knees in 1 week. Instaflex Advanced. Get it today.
Traveling again? We really missed you at the Buffalo Niagara International Airport. While you were gone, we upgraded with more space and a bigger and better baggage claim area, while keeping all the great amenities that have made us an ultra-convenient, award-winning airport. We have non-stop destinations all over the U.S., from major airlines to low-cost carriers that don't fly in Ontario, like JetBlue, Frontier, and Southwest. Average peak checkpoint wait time is still only 12 minutes. Save time and money. Visit buffaloairport.com today.
Looking to sugar down and protein up? Enjoy tasty Too Good yogurt with 80% less sugar than the leading flavored yogurt and high in protein. It's the afternoon snack that's got your back. Less sugar, high protein. Too Good.
If you're paying high interest rates on your credit card, you're wasting money. Consolidated Credit can work with your creditors to reduce your total payments by up to 50% and lower your high interest rates so you can stop juggling multiple payments. Save thousands in interest charges and pay off your credit card debt fast. You don't have to be good with money because we are. Call 800-835-4023 for a free consultation or go to debthelpnow.ca. 800-835-4023. That's 800-835-4023.
Welcome back. With tonight's final leaders debate all done, the candidates have 10 days left to press the flesh and get their message out before voters head to the polls. Let's take a look at the latest polling from Abacus data, which shows the PC still in front, the Liberals in second place, the NDP in third, and the Green running fourth. And let's show the next graph there, guys, that shows how it's changed since February 6th. Now, the PC's losing points, the Liberals gaining points, NDP not changed. As we go towards the end of this campaign, Keith, I want to start with you. What do you think Ford needs to do to get it done?
He just has to stay on message. So I think we're going to hear a lot more of the Captain Canada stuff that we didn't hear very much about tonight during the debate because the opposition parties were able to stay more on the questioning and get more topics discussed. But for Doug Ford, he doesn't want to discuss any of those things. So he needs to stay away from the issues like homelessness, healthcare, the shortage of doctors, hallway medicine, all this sort of stuff. And I suspect that's why he skipped out on the post-debate scrums tonight. You remember, during this entire election campaign, and for quite some time longer, Doug Ford has not given a sit-down interview with any of the media from Ontario. None. He's done some American broadcasts, of course, but he's not done one interview with a Canadian media outlet during this election. That's pretty unusual.
Sabrina, the polling shows that the Liberals are trending upwards. Does Bonnie Crombie have an actual shot at becoming the next premier, or what do you think is the best she can do with the next 10 days?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I've got a wild imagination if it does feel like anything could happen, but certainly, for tonight, Bonnie Crombie had her work cut out for her. It was an opportunity for her to, do some damage control and counter these multi-million-dollar attack ads that the PCs have been running for months. It was her chance to introduce herself to Ontarians, in a broader stage. And, it was her moment to not only hold Doug Ford's feet to the fire, but also differentiate herself from Marit Stiles in the NDP. I thought she did a decent job of that. She held her own. She got in some decent jabs and sort of made it personal too about her personal story. Whether or not that's going to be enough to overtake the NDP and become official opposition, or even for the Liberals to get recognized status and 12 seats, something they've not been able to do in the last two elections. I think that she's got her work cut out for her, but she's right now, we are seeing the Liberals gaining steam. So I think the Liberals are feeling very confident after Bonnie's performance tonight.
Randy, 20 seconds or less. What about Marit? What does she have to do?
I think Marit has to abandon attacking Doug Ford and attack Bonnie Crombie more and more as she did tonight. And the reason for that is she's not going to win to be premier, and she could lose her official opposition status.
All right. Thank you very much, Randy. Thank you to all of our panelists for being with us tonight. That's all the time we have time for. But before we go, don't forget, on election night, February the 27th, we have special coverage starting at 9 p.m. Your home, your vote, a CHCH special. We'll have all the election results from across our region and our team of experts hosted by me. Please join us for the evening news at 11 o'clock. We will update today's plane crash at Pearson International Airport. For now, I'm Matt Ingram. Thanks for being with us.
You could borrow $80,000 or even $2.8 million. How would you increase the value of your property? Invest in your future. Call us today. CapitalDirect.ca.
I love you. Hey boy, what you eat? Hamburger, give me some greedy. I bet you can't see. Eeny, meeny, gypsalini, oop-pop, pop-a-lini, achi-kachi, liberace, I love you. Eeny, meeny, gypsalini, oop-pop, pop-a-lini, I love you.
Are you waking up to pee at 1, 2, or even 3? Do you find your giggles can turn to dribbles? You're not alone. These issues are common, but they're not normal. I had them too. And it's why I started Eurospot. We combine technology, education, and health coaching to help women and men say goodbye to bladder leaks, urgency, prolapse, and other pelvic health issues including ED. How? Simply by sitting on a chair fully clothed, rebooting the connection between your brain, bladder, and pelvic floor.
Imagine you could get help for your stiff, achy joints without products that just hide the symptoms. Instaflex Advanced. It relieves joint pain and stiffness caused by osteoarthritis with key ingredients backed by 5 clinical studies. You'll have better knees in 1 week. Instaflex Advanced. Get it today.
I love walking, but it can be frustrating if my legs and feet are slowing me down. My pharmacy recommended a Revitive Medic circulation booster, and I haven't looked back.
Drug-free Revitive is clinically proven to actively improve leg circulation, relieve aches and pains, and help you walk further. Revitive Medic is also suitable for people diagnosed with osteoarthritis or diabetes.
I believe using Revitive has really helped me. Give it a go today.
For the latest offers on the Revitive pain range, see in store or revitive.ca.
He became the director of his life, and Exotica, an extraordinary travel crafter, made it happen.
It has to be more epic.
Can we make it night?
Greater. Magnificent.
What could you wish for?
That it's affordable.
Start planning the life you want to see flashing before your eyes at exotica.com.
Yes, I know, Mummy. Yes, we miss you too. Exotica. Exotica, Mummy.